This episode is brought to you by Netflix. Most Valuable Promotions and Netflix are putting on a blockbuster triple headliner on Saturday, May 16th at the Intuit Dome in Los Angeles. In the main event, Ronda Rousey returns after nearly a decade to face fellow women's MMA pioneer Gina Carano. Plus co-mains Nate Diaz versus Mike Perry. And the best heavyweight in the world, Francis Ngannou versus Felipe Lins. Watch Rousey versus Carano, live tonight, only on Netflix.
What they did to your family, you're lucky to make it out alive.
Streaming on Peacock.
These men are going to come after me. Taking them out is my only chance.
Put a bullet in her head.
From the co-creator of Ozark.
Looks like a family was running drugs.
Execution-style killing, it's rare for the Keys. Any leads on who they might have been running for?
The cartel killed my family. I'm gonna kill them. All of them.
MIA. Streaming now. Only on Peacock.
This episode is brought to you by Redfin. You're listening to a podcast, which means you're probably multitasking. Maybe even scrolling home listings on Redfin, saving homes without expecting to get them. But Redfin isn't just built for endless browsing. It's built to help you find and own a home. With agents who close twice as many deals, when you find the one, you've got a real shot at getting it. Get started at redfin.com. Own the dream.
Hi, everybody. Again, this is Mike Longacre from At Mike's Guitar Parlor in Hermosa Beach. You guys are listening to The Hook Rocks with Jay Scott.
Welcome back to The Hook Rocks. Good evening to you. Good day, good afternoon, whenever you're listening. I'm Jay Scott. I'm your host. I'll be taking you on a journey over the next hour. So thank you again for tuning in. Once again, as I always say, we are part of the Pantheon Podcast Network, a great network of music-related podcasts. We have all types, or they have all types of great music podcast, something for everyone. If you're into different tastes, not just rock and roll, there's plenty of podcasts to choose from on Pantheon. I always mention the ones that have been on the show that I know, and that's Baco from Cobras and Fire, Martin Popoff, the rock historian, Mistress Carrie, Tom and Zeus from Shout Out Loudcast, the #1 Kiss podcast, and Ron and Esty, Vinny Appice, Carmen Apice from the Hangin' and Bangin' podcast. So check out all of them. Check out Pantheon Podcast at pantheonpodcast.com. Follow them on Twitter at Pantheon Pods, as well as Facebook. And don't forget to follow the Hook Rocks podcast wherever you do podcasts. We're on every platform, whether it's Spotify, Apple, or Amazon. You can find us. You can check out all the old episodes, the new episodes, and don't forget to set your app to automatic download so you get all the new episodes right to your phone, and you can listen to music commentary, our legacy interviews, and our new music spotlights. You can follow us on Twitter at The Hook Rocks, as well as Facebook. Check out some of our previous episodes over the last few weeks. We just did a great episode with Christine Eagle on concerts and where they're headed. I know we've had a lot of postponements here in the first couple of months, so hopefully that gets all sorted out here at some point in 2022. We talk about the revenue generated by Live Nation last year. The fourth quarter, which is only about 6 to 7 weeks of touring, was huge for them, as well as how much revenue is available in live streaming. So check out that great conversation. We also did a new music spotlight with The Warning earlier this month, as well as our year-end 2021 album celebration, where we count down the top 30 albums with contributions from some of our listeners and a few others. We did 6 hours of reviewing 2021, and we discussed over 160 different albums. So everything from legacy artists to new emerging bands to unknowns, we cover it all. And we have a new music spotlight to have for you today, and I'm really excited about it. It's a band from the UK. The band is Scarlet Rebels, and they've got a new album coming out this Friday, and we're going to have Wayne Doyle, the lead singer, to talk all about it. What's going on, man? How are you?
Hi, Jay. How's it going, dude? How are you doing?
It's going, man. Thank you very much for doing this. I'm excited to have you guys on. It's a big moment for you guys. See Through Blue is out this Friday, the 28th of January. And the singles have been coming out over the last few months. Take You Home, I'm Alive, These Days. Tremendous songs. Looking forward to talking with you about the album and what all went into it. This is a follow-up to Show Your Colors from 2019. Yeah. So, man, thanks for doing this.
No, thanks for having me on. It's really kind of you. I appreciate it massively. Thank you.
So before we begin, we always ask the same first question every time we have a first-time guest on the show, and that is really what we're all about. Just like every rock song has a hook that sucks you in, every rock fan has a moment, whether it's a song, an album, a band, or performance that hooked you on rock and roll. What was it for you?
It was, so I sort of grew up, my dad used to have a lot of like music on in the car, so rock music and stuff like Queen and that kind of thing. But I think the biggest moment was I had an elder brother, and he first of all, he brought like a bunch of Guns N' Roses albums into the house, which kind of sort of pricked my ears up a bit and started to get the juices flowing. But I think the biggest thing was he came home with Bon Jovi's Keep the Faith album. And I know Bon Jovi get a lot of stick, whatever, but I think back then, for me at the time, they struck that balance between, big guitars and really sing-along choruses kind of thing. So, yeah, that's probably where it started, and then obviously it developed into what it is, and the artists that I sort of follow now and stuff. So, but yeah, it was a mix of like Queen, Guns N' Roses, and Bon Jovi, just through other people sort of playing it through the house, yeah.
It's such an overlooked album by Bon Jovi. Keep the Faith was after New Jersey. The big albums were New Jersey and Slippery When Wet. And Keep the Faith was kind of their first album where they were separating themselves from what was called the hair bands, the glam bands from that era. It was a lot more mature sound, a little bit of a different direction. I mean, the title track is a great song. I'll Sleep When I'm Dead is a fantastic song. I think the other one was I Believe was the first track. That's what it was that just sucked me in. It was like just that guitar riff and huge massive chorus, and I was just like, wow, it just balanced, because Guns N' Roses, I mean, I think I was only like 12 or 13 or something like that when it came out, perhaps even younger. And like, I love the melodic Guns N' Roses, like Don't Cry and November Rain and Sweet Child of Mine and that kind of thing. But there was a lot which at the time was quite heavy for how, the age that I was at. So I think it was the Bon Jovi just struck the balance between massive guitar solos, big sounding guitars, big pounding drums, but that sort of almost slightly less edgy vocal sort of treatment, I guess. But then obviously as I grew up, it all sort of expanded from there anyway. But those early Bon Jovi albums, I don't really understand the snobbery about it. It baffles me sometimes, because it's like it's just really good rock music. I don't like their recent stuff at all. But the early stuff, and then
Keep the Faith in These Days, I think are just brilliant rock albums. But there we go. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't get the pushback from rock fans on Bon Jovi as well, because number one, they're a great live performing act. I mean, seeing them in concert, they're absolutely phenomenal. Their songwriting, when you think back of that period, I don't know if there's a band that wrote better songs during that time. Living on a Prayer is known, Wanted Dead or Alive. When you think of New Jersey, I'll Be There for You, or Stick to Your Guns, Blood on Blood, and then you mentioned, These Days too, as well. These Days is probably my favorite album by them, because it really showed their growth and evolution, because, they were really singing songs about different things than they were a few albums prior to that. And they weren't afraid to go down that road and do that. Yeah. But they're a phenomenal live act. They're phenomenal musicians and songwriters. I don't know, maybe because they're liked by too many women. I don't know. It's just a shame that people kind of thumb their nose at them, because from that period, when you think of the bands that have maintained success, the only two, and I'm not talking, about Metallica and the heavy metal acts, I'm talking about the hard rock acts, but the only two that really came through that and maintained was Van Halen and Bon Jovi. All the other ones had a lot of different problems, and even Def Leppard went through a period where they were struggling, as did Motley Crue and every band. But really, those two, because of the music was great all the way through, up until, like you said, some of the stuff they've released lately, the last handful of albums have been kind of formula. But they're a great band. I love that band.
Yeah, I agree. I just think the last few have been a bit safe without. It's been a bit. They've gone from for me, that ideal. You had the guitars, the piano, the social aspect was all coming through the songs in These Days, and then Richie Sambora left, and it just kind of started to peter off towards, I don't know, a different aspect. So I'm not a massive fan of their recent stuff, but that period. Yeah, like I said, I don't understand it, but seems to be a lot of snobbery around it. So I don't know.
Where did it go
but that was what turned me on.
Yeah, where did it go from there for you? You got hooked on rock through Queen, GNR, and Bon Jovi. When did it become something that you wanted to do, perform, and be in a band?
Yeah, so I from that, it was never a thing at the time. I was just really loved listening to the rock music and that kind of thing. And then, so I just came home from school one day and was just said to my parents, I'd really like to learn to play the guitar. And, I was coming home from school every day saying that I'd really like to have, a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle figure and this, that, and the other every single day, pretty much. But then I came home and I just went, I'd really like to play the guitar. I think because my teacher in school had brought one into class or something. And then I came home from school the next day and there was a guitar there for me. And I was like, whoa, that's never happened before. So obviously my parents were like, oh, that's quite a wholesome activity, try and encourage it. So they just went out and got me a cheap little acoustic nylon string guitar. And so I started having lessons, and you go to lessons and you start I was getting taught things that I just weren't interested in really, but I kind of could play, chords and stuff. And then I kept going to lessons until I was about 12 or 13 or whatever, and then just kind of sat in the corner gathering dust. But then just one day, a friend of mine just he had a guitar in his house. We were just knocking around together on a Saturday afternoon, and I picked his guitar up and we just started jamming together, and then we just formed a little band, really. And he was a much better guitarist than me, so I was like, well, I'll try singing. And it just went from there. I just started, doing singing, and I could kind of hold a tune. And then I just decided that, I'd rather be in a band that would write songs themselves. So it was like I discovered, a treasure trove of something that just really interests me and interested in me for a bit, and then just went from there. It was just really kind of not fell into it, but it just happened. And then this fire started burning inside me, and about wanting to write music and to be in a band and to try and get the band to be as big as as successful and do as many gigs as possible, etc. And it just went from there. Really, it was just the songs that you write to start with aren't very good, but you just keep writing more and more and more, and then eventually they started to become slightly better. And so yeah, it was just very, I not fell into it, but it just naturally happened, I guess. Yeah.
When you think of bands that you saw in concert as you were, starting off your journey in rock and roll, what were some of those bands that made an impact on you?
So Bon Jovi were one. I've seen Bon Jovi quite a few times. Bruce Springsteen. So seeing that live show just changes your absolute thing on everything. It was just, I'd never been a massive Bruce Springsteen fan, and I picked his Greatest Hits album up, and just randomly, because I knew that Bon Jovi and all these other bands were always bands that I was interested in. Were always, Pearl Jam and stuff, always talking about Bruce Springsteen, whatever. So I knew his great, his Dancing in the Dark and that kind of thing. But I think I was in HMV, like a record store, and it was just his Greatest Hits was available for like $4.99 or something. So like £5. So that would be about, I don't know, well, it's probably $5 now, isn't it, for America? And I just picked it up, and then I heard the song "The River," and I was like, "Wow, this is just a story and a song kind of thing." So then I started listening to it, and then I went to see him live as what I would say was like a casual fan who had, his greatest hits and knew his biggest songs, but not, deep dived into everything. And it was just life-changing in terms of how much of almost like a religious experience it was, It was just mind-blowing. 3.5 hours of just total and utter live experience, just perfection, and it was just amazing. And I just absolutely just clicked the switch in my head, just like, this is absolutely out of this world type of thing. And so I've just literally every single date he ever did in the UK, I followed him around for years, and then so that was the one sort of lightning bolt, I think, with Bruce Springsteen. Yeah,
I saw an interview a few years ago with Tom Morello, who toured with Springsteen. And he was talking about how he has to know, I forget what the number of songs that he had to know going on the tour, because there's no set list. He just calls out songs, or maybe there's a few songs that they know they're going to play, but then he'll just turn to the bands and he'll yell out a song and they got to know it, which is pretty remarkable, because a lot of bands, have the same set list every night. Maybe there's a couple different variations, but to kind of have that organic feel to that live show is something that is really impressive in today's day and age.
It's incredible, because you can just see like Max Weinberg, the drummer, who is just craning his neck, following Bruce Springsteen on the stage because he's waiting for his cue. And like you said, sometimes you see Bruce Springsteen walking on the stage barking orders at them to kind of say, I know the set list says whatever next, but we're actually going to do. So he kind of just wings it on the night by taking the vibes off the crowd to think like, perhaps that won't work. And that can be a pain, when you're in a band and you're like, when we're gigging and stuff, you've got a set list. And sometimes I'm like, I don't, if things are going really well and it's like a good pace and good atmosphere, and then you've got on your set list something which will bring the atmosphere down, sometimes it's best to just go, do you know what, we'll skip that, we'll leave that one out tonight and just carry on the upbeat songs just to keep that vibe going, So yeah, he just does it on a dime. And like you said, he goes and he gets cards, and, where fans have got requests on, and they just play these songs that perhaps they've not played in like 10, 15 years. And it's just incredible to be a part of. It's honestly, it's just, I don't know. just the whole band, they're just amazing. And it's just like to aspire to be that good, it's just like, it's incredible, but yeah, amazing.
When you speak about songwriting and, beginning that journey, because, there's the journey of musician and learning your instrument, and then there's songwriting. Was there a song that you heard that connected with you that made you want to pursue that in terms of writing lyrics, writing songs that, were personal to you, or observations that you saw? What was that journey like for you?
Yeah, so like I said, to start with, I think from a songwriting point of view, I was always very sort of more concerned with the melody line as opposed to what you were saying, So, and that melody line had sort of ingrained itself in from like listening to Queen and Bon Jovi and Guns N' Roses and those, big anthemic choruses, And I wasn't overly bothered about the fact, about what the lyrics were saying. It's not something that ever really permeated myself for me to kind of go, oh, maybe I need to start taking a bit more notice of it. I was more concerned with the melody and just having a hook that stuck in people's heads. But then, and I guess when you consider like that, it was almost like I wasn't actually taking myself seriously as a songwriter, more as just a front man of a band who could perhaps come up with a decent melody. But then again, like I said, The River by Bruce Springsteen was the one that was the song that I listened to, and I just went, you've got this 4.5-5 minute song of that just paints this absolute picture of, you can see as that song is going on, you can see it almost in your mind's eye, the story that he sings about through the whole song. And I just thought, just really powerful, just a really powerful moment for me as a songwriter to just turn around, just to think in my own head, you can do both, you can have these big melodies and whatever, but actually, if you've got the opportunity to say something, maybe that's the best way to do it. So I think from then I started to, and delving deeper into artists like Bruce Springsteen and Tom Petty and these, absolute genius songwriters, Bob Dylan and all that kind of thing. It just, the lyric writing is a massive craft in itself. And so I just started to take it more seriously from that point. And then that is where all the sort of, my lyric writing has become as important, if not more so, than the melodies that sort of accompany the song. So it's funny how you sort of just get better, I guess, as you get older.
Do you find your writing to be more on a personal side, observation, something that you want, a story that you want to tell? Where do you find the motivation for writing, on the majority of the songs?
Yeah, so the majority of it is just observational, and like a song like These Days off the new record is just an observation on, what I was watching as we were going through the pandemic on a global scale, I guess. It's just like a commentary on what I was viewing and what I was seeing and experiencing. And then there's a song like London Story on the record, which our guitarist Josh had laid the composition of the song down, so built the song up from start, and it didn't have any lyrics or melodies to it. So he'd put a working title for the song as a town that he was living in when he was living in London. So I just kind of wrote this kind of seed, got planted in my head about writing a song about two people who meet in a bus stop in Hemel Hempstead, which is like about 40-50 minutes outside of London. And then they fall in love, and then the guy goes and has a night out and then ruins the relationship by having this night out in London. And yeah, I can I do a bit of both, observational and things that have happened to me, or things that can be quite cathartic in terms of me sort of writing about it, or just writing little stories that are just that, really, just stories about characters that I've imagined in my head almost, So yeah, I think that kind of comes from that, and nowhere near as good or as impressive, but kind of comes from that sort of Bruce Springsteen, kind of influenced by writing a story into a song almost, So yeah, it's just anything that I just, and even if it's like I'll hear like a saying or like read a headline or something that just flicks something in my mind that might spark off different ideas around what that might be, will just turn into a song then, So it's quite natural the way I do it. I think it's just what goes on in my mind pretty much. But so yeah, it's different ways of doing it, but all as useful.
How was this creative process during the pandemic? I know, there's two really differences with some musicians. Some really didn't bother to do anything. I shouldn't say bother. I just say weren't inspired to do much because they were, cooped up in their house, and others were just still writing and using that as the outlet to kind of forget about what was happening out in the world.
Yeah, for us, I think it was well, for me anyway, as a songwriter and a lyric writer, it was a motivation, I think, because particularly in the UK, I think there's been things that have gone on over here that just aren't becoming of what leadership should look like, and and just witnessing that and seeing news stories on it and reading articles on what was going on. People were dying, and you had like MPs from so our government were setting up companies to basically feather their own nests by using the pandemic to do that, and it just struck a really wrong chord with me. So I used it as an outlet for my anger, I guess. And that's where the whole See Through Blue thing came from. It was just a bit of an angry reaction to what we were seeing. So yeah, it helped us 100%. We didn't just sit and just ignore everything and just kind of think that we'll wait it out. We just actively tried to work to try and take advantage of the situation when things were back to normal, or as near as back to normal as we could be. So yeah.
How was this process? I mean, obviously there were a lot of differences with the pandemic and being able to record the music. Maybe some stuff was done remotely, or did you find that after writing the songs there was a different connection with the music than previous before on some of your other stuff?
Yeah, I think the difference is that a lot of the songs that we did for Show Your Colours, we sort of worked on together in rehearsal rooms, and we sort of had an idea of what the album was going to sound like. But obviously, during the pandemic, we weren't allowed to be in a rehearsal room together. We weren't allowed to be in the same bubble and all that kind of thing for a long time. So what we did was, when we booked the recording studio to start work on the album, I went in on the first day and I'd written about 8 or 9 songs, I think. And I recorded the guides for those songs. And then the next day, Chris, our guitarist, came in. He then recorded the guides to the 3 tracks that he'd written. So the Chris and Josh just contributed to the music. So they came in and they basically laid down the track of music that we were going to work on. So Chris was I'm Alive, Take You Home, and Storm. And then Josh came in and did the music for London Story and We're Going Nowhere, which is on the album. So then I hadn't heard those songs before. and pretty much we sort of we had to work in like a demo of what it was, and then we just chucked our drummer in, and he then recorded the drums after basically not hearing any of the songs before, and then the bass went on top, and then the guitars, and we just built it up from up from the bottom to the top, then without pretty much hearing what anybody had come up with. We were sharing ideas and tiny little bits and bobs on WhatsApp, but it's really hard. It's really difficult to convey your ideas back and forth. So in the end, I was just like, well, you just write the whole composition for the songs that you've got, and then I'll do mine, and then we'll just work on them from there. So that's the way we did it for this album, which was really interesting because, like I said, I was using the working titles for the boys' other pieces of music to then try and inform what the song lyrically and thematically were going to be around or about. So it's a different way of working for me as well, which made it really interesting. And it was kind of one of those that I was boxed in. So if one of the other boys had kind of gone, right, you've only, this section is a verse, and I was like, I could do with an extra verse there or whatever to make the lyrics make more sense. It was like, well, it's tough because that's all you've got. So I had to make the lyrics fit, into the sort of sizes that the composition as it was. So yeah, it was a challenge, and I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed, the way that we did it. It was different, and it was good. It was really good. So yeah.
How long ago was this album recorded? I know a lot of bands and artists have been sitting on material for a while, just trying to find the right time to release it.
So we finished it in December 2020, so over a year ago now. Well, over a year. Well, about 14 months ago. And then we put the pre-order stuff out in June last year. So it's been a good 6 months. We've had a single drop in every couple of weeks, or every 8-9 weeks, whatever it is, up until the release, which is due on. So it's Wednesday, the 26th today, and it's out on the 28th. So not tomorrow, the day after. So yeah, it's been a long time coming. The funny thing is that the lyrical themes of a lot of the songs are more relevant now, especially within the UK, than they were when we recorded them, because of all the stuff that's going on with our government and stuff at the moment. Everything that I'd written back then just seems to be even more relevant now. So yeah, it seems like a good time to drop.
How do you stay connected with music that has been finished and completed over a year? Because obviously it's a completely different situation all around the world because of what's happened. And you write this music, and typically what a band does is, write, record, finish it. They maybe sit on it for a couple months until, the right release date, and then you go out and support it. You go out and tour it. That obviously, you were unable to do that. I mean, maybe you did some shows, a few shows, but, and did some of the songs, but really not in support of the album because the album's not out yet. But you've got to maintain a connection to that music that you've written, that you've recorded. And sometimes that's a challenge, especially with how the world and the environment around us is evolving. How do you do that? How do you stay connected with material that you've written? Or does that song evolve with you, evolve with the time and become something different? Because that's really, that can happen too with a song.
Yeah, I think, to be honest with you, what you're saying is right. I mean, in terms of, how old it is or how familiar I am with them now is, for a bit, you just try not, because to start with, we'd finished the album, and then we were like looking for a home for it to go to give it to people who are able to work with that, would serve it best. So we did that for a little bit, and then we managed to put that in place. And then through, those discussions with the label, having the chats about when's the best time to go out and then what the singles are going to be, etc. So it's just been busy. So like I said, the minute that we finished it, we were kind of looking for a home for it. And then when we found the home, there was a lot of other stuff going on and we were just constantly evolving those plans as we went. But like I said, in terms of, the themes and that kind of thing, it's weird that the lyrical themes and the theme of the album as such just is more relevant now than it was when we finished it. So in terms of me being over familiar with it, I think for a good 4 or 5 months I just stepped away from it and I didn't listen back to it and after it was done, because like you say, it's always a long time before these things get put into place, especially with the amount of time pre-orders that bands use now in order to try and maximize those first week sales and stuff into any charts and that kind of thing. So it's always best, in my opinion, to just leave it for a bit so that when you do pick it back up in a few months or whatever, it's a little bit fresher than it would be otherwise. But yeah, it's been exciting really, because we've not had the chance to gig the new songs and stuff. So yeah, we're all just excited about that now, about taking it out into the road and playing, the live versions of the tracks on the album as we've sort of interpreted them live and stuff. So, but I get what you're saying. It can be a slog to keep, being. I mean, it's new for everybody else, but for us, it's like 14, 15 months old. But yeah, it's just nice now because we're getting reviews and getting people's opinions and stuff on it. And so, yeah, it's just one of those things. I think it's just as a band, you just accept that is what it is. Yeah.
What did you learn most about yourself, creatively, about the band, during the recording of this album and, the time after that? Like what's been the biggest thing you've been able to take away from this? Because each album is its own experience. It's its own journey. What was about this that you'll take with you?
Just the ability to work under the pressure that we were under to do it. We needed to deliver it by a certain time frame, and so it was the quickest thing we've ever recorded. It was the quickest I've ever written lyrics and stuff. So that was one good thing. I think there was pressure on us to do it, and we pulled it out of the bag. And but everything is always a learn. Every single, like you said, every single gig, every single recording session, every album or song that you work on is always the opportunity to learn and to get better. And I think it's just the whole thing is a learning curve. And then obviously working with some of the people that we've been working with recently in terms of the release and stuff. And that's all been a massive learning curve as well. So, it's just one of those, it's just, like I said, it's just a constant learning, constant trying to grow and trying to get better at what we do. But yeah, I think that the fact that we did it that we've come out of a pretty crappy time in the pandemic, and having, and documenting a piece of work which can reflect and hark back on this period that we've been through, and having done that literally in the middle of it and finishing it in the middle of it as well. Yeah, I think it just captures a piece of time nicely as well. So all those kind of things, really, it's all good stuff, and stuff that hopefully we can use to move forward.
Now that you're on the eve of this album being released,
yeah,
how do you feel? Like it's got to be a relief. It's got to be excitement. There's got to be some nervousness. But really, it's all been delayed, right? I mean, it's you mentioned the end of 2020. We've gone through a full calendar year. We're into 2022. I mean, there's the anticipation. What's that like now to finally see this material that you guys created finally able to penetrate the ears of rock fans?
Yeah, so it's hugely exciting. like I said, I think it's been knocking around for the past month in terms of people reviewing it and that kind of thing. So, just to read the first review, I was like a little bit, apprehensive. What's it going to be like? Are people going to prefer it to show you colours and all this kind of thing? So, but yeah, it's a list of it's everything that you've mentioned. It's excitement. They're really excited to get it out, to hear what people think of it. There's stress involved because obviously, we're looking to hit certain numbers, and have we hit certain numbers in terms of sales, and there's all that kind of thing. And then you've got the PR and promo work that has got to be done, and then the social media posts and everything. So it's everything. It's everything. I've not slept properly for a good few months now, but particularly the last month it's been tough mentally and physically because there's so much stuff to be done. So obviously it's out on Friday, and then we've got a few sort of in-store appearances around the country next week. So next week is going to be even busier. And then once that's all out of the way, then we can just sit back and just reflect on it, I think. But the main thing is excitement. But yeah, there's all sorts of emotions, tinged in there as well. So, but yeah, we're massively excited to get out there to see what people make of it. Yeah.
How is it for you guys, when you record an album like this and it's, about to come out? And obviously one of the things that emerging bands do, emerging artists, is they really have to work social media, whether it's Instagram or Facebook, Twitter, whatever platform that you guys, some have a heavy presence on one and maybe not so much on some of the others.
Yeah.
When you started out as a musician and had that vision in your head of what you wanted to accomplish, the last thing you guys ever thought was how to be social media savvy, because you have a creative mind and you want to create and you want to write and you want to do music. And now all of a sudden you've got to figure out how to connect with and grow your fan base through all these platforms. What's that like for you guys? I mean, for the legacy artists don't really have to worry about that, right? The Maidens of the world, the Def Leppards of the world, they don't have to worry about connecting with fans on social media because they're going to do what they do regardless. Whereas a new band, that's really the name of the game now.
Yeah, it is. It's so important. It's a job in itself. It is an actual role in itself to be on top of it. I think it's got absolutely huge plus points and a few negative points. And it's tough. It's tough going to keep on top of everything and to make sure that everybody that is interacting with you and is commenting and is, that you interact back. Like for instance, we had some like a comment from a gentleman on our Facebook page about, so we put a video up and a lot of people commented on it, and we were going and commenting back saying thank you, blah 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 blah. And then this guy had put like a comment on it like 3:30, 4:45 in the morning, commenting on something, and then about like an hour later he was commenting, oh, everybody else has had a response but you've not responded back to me, type of thing. And I was like, it's because we were asleep. We were in bed, our phones and stuff are away. So it's hard. It is. And I think like even if you take sometimes it's like 6 or 7 hours out, so you just have a bit of a break from it, you can miss so much stuff that's gone on that you've not. So it's hard to keep on top of, but it's really nice to be able to interact with people that, that are interested in what you're doing and support what you do, Yeah. So that it's really nice to have that one-to-one, that kind of, to make it feel as if it's, it's not just us releasing an album as such, there's people who are all behind it. So it's like it's like an overall overarching kind of thing, people who are into the band and other bands as well, they almost make it their own. It's it's as important to them that we do well as it is to us, which is she's mind blowing and it's lovely. But and that interaction is something that you'll never get tired of. And having those people commenting and saying nice things, it does keep that fire burning and keeps fuel in the tank. But it is hard work. It is, and you have to do it. Like you said, we're not in the position that we can afford to pay somebody to do our social media for us, so we do it ourselves, and we do it across Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. So it's a lot to keep on top of, but it's one of those things. It's got to be done. So it's like I said, there's massive pluses to it, few minuses, because obviously you get trolls as well, which is always nice. It can be fun to deal with them, and then other times it's like, I can't be bothered to do this now, so just delete it, as opposed to have a bit of back and forth with people. But yeah, it's a necessary now. It's an absolute necessary. If you aren't on social media, and it's you're not going to get very far now, I don't think.
Yeah.
So yeah.
As far as 2022 goes, are there any set plans in place for the coming year for Scarlet Rebels?
Yeah, so we've got a tour. So obviously the album is out on Friday, and then so we're doing a few in-stores and sign-ins and meet and greet things over the next few days. That's going to be all over the country. So that's going to be cool. It's going to be nice. And then we've got a tour that is going from the beginning of March pretty much into May. And then we're in summer festival season then. So we've got some really cool festivals lined up. That'll take us into like September, and then we've got some other dates taking us into the back end of this year. So then hopefully, we'll just keep adding live dates for the rest of this year, so that we can get out and about and push the album as much as we can. And then I'm assuming, or then not even I'm assuming, but then come the end of this year, going into next year, we'll start looking at recording the follow-up to this one. So, start working that. So, yeah, it's all busy. It's all lovely things really cool things that we've got in plans in place, and so it's just basically trying to keep on with what we're doing at the moment. So, it's going to be good. It's going to be good.
Wayne, I've really enjoyed the conversation. Looking forward to the new album coming out Friday, the 28th. Looking forward to seeing you guys succeed with it, because it's really good material. It's really good music.
Thank you, man. I really appreciate it. It's really kind of you.
You've been listening to the Hook Rocks New Music Spotlight with Wayne Doyle from Scarlet Rebels. I'm Jay Scott. Thanks again for listening. Take care of each other. Stay safe. Stay healthy. We'll talk soon. Thank you.
A thousand monsters in 300 Favorite Albums with James Campion.
I don't think there's an album I know better front to back. I learned how to play guitar to a lot of these songs.
If I could pick one record to hand someone and say, this is what it feels like to be a woman, it would be this record.
You know, the engineer that was recording the album for us was a novice engineer. He was really the janitor.
The first half of these sessions for the album were totally improvisatory in the sense that they went into the studio and just dealt with whatever happened.
There was space that was left for these listeners to kind of discover it for themselves. That they would say, yeah, my parents listened to it, but I had to build my own relationship to it.
Happiness, good living, peace, love, rock and roll. I just feel like this album is such a wonderful translation of that concept.
People understood they were in a world historical moment, and it felt like it was going to last forever. In fact, the infinite spaces that they explored in The Giant Now is part of what made that explosion so huge.